The following program is rated TVMA. It is intended only for mature audiences. Viewer and listener discretion is advised. Every now and again, you run across somebody that, for whatever reason, grabs your attention, like immediately. And through a friend of mine who is up in Canada, I watched a video that he had posted. And I saw this lady come on and just blew me away. And I'm like, I have got to talk to her. And thankfully, she agreed. And she said yes. So if you would, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Desiree Hesson. How are you this morning?
I am doing real good. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing fantastic so far. I really appreciate it. Honest to God, I appreciate you taking the time to do this. You came into it absolutely cold. I mean, I didn't know who you were. You didn't know who I was. And here you got this message from me going, "Hey, would you like to do an interview?" And I'm sure on your end you went, "So what the is this?" You know?
It's, you know what? Any opportunity for me to be able to talk, I'm going to take it. So, one of those things, because I never shut up. So if somebody's willing to hear me, I'm happy.
No, this is perfect. Because, like I said, the video, and it was your cousin, Nick Hesson, who had posted a video. And you were talking about business of sorts and growing a business and keeping things. But what grabbed my attention was your focus, your enthusiasm, and you cut through BS really quickly. And I'm like, oh my God. Because I don't run across, I don't think anybody really does run across somebody like you very often at all.
I'm one of a kind. I'll give you that. I'm one of a kind for sure. And I definitely cut through BS real quick. Nobody got time for that. So
I noticed that in some of your other videos that I've watched. It's like your tolerance for BS is absolutely next to zero. You can tolerate it a little bit, and that's it. You run a studio.
yes.
And if I'm not mistaken, is it a full workout studio? What is it that you do? And folks, while you're even looking at this picture, I'm going to relate to you what happened. I'm a nerd. 100% I'm a nerd. And I looked at this picture and I'm like, and I saw the name for her studio. And my brain went S2DO. I'm like, well, that's an odd name, but okay, that's kind of cool. And it wasn't until not long ago that I was listening to Phil Collins. And I was listening to Susudio. And it clicked. I'm like, oh my God. Michael, you're such a dork. And I told my wife, I said, Shelley, here's the name that she put on her studio. And she goes, well, that's a really cool name. And I looked at her, and my face had that look. We've been married 25 years. My face had that look. And she goes, Michael, how long did it take you to realize that she spelled the word studio? I'm like, a while. And then I got nothing but raspberries for it. She wouldn't let me. She just like a dog with a bone. She didn't let that one go for a couple of hours.
As she shouldn't, by the way.
How long have you run your studio?
So I started just myself. I bought 18 spin bikes and a speaker. And in July of 2018, I started subleasing a dance studio that was closed for summer. So that's how I started July in 2018.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, and I didn't give you a chance to answer. Is it a full workout studio? Do you do mostly one thing or another?
So when we first started, it was just spin classes. That's so my actual full legal business name is The Spin Studio Prince Albert. So that's how we started with just spin, which is group fitness on stationary bikes.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, we have expanded exponentially over the last 6.5 years. So now we do spin classes, we do cross training classes, I do personal training. We do like private group classes with hockey teams and stuff like that. I do nutrition mentorship now. So we're kind of a one-stop shop for group fitness, personal training, and nutrition as well. And I also drop my own athletic wear line, which is, you can see some stuff behind me. And of course, I'm
Mm-hmm.
repping my own brand here. So we have just grown and grown and grown over the last 6.5 years.
How your studio does not look overtly large like a lot of people would expect. I'm not going to say that it's cramped inside, but it looks like it's pretty well compact. Is that true?
It is. So the building is actually 3,000 square feet. So it's bigger than it looks. And
Wow.
I also get that a lot. People come in and they're like, holy shit, this is way bigger than I thought.
Oh yeah.
Saying that, you are correct. We have used every nook and cranny in this place to use up space. When I first moved into this building, I actually told my real estate agent that this is way too big. This isn't the place for me. And I walked away from it. And then we came back and looked at it again. And I went, shit, there's nowhere else really good to lease, in the city. Maybe I should consider this. I walked away again. And it was the
Wow.
third time that I came back and said, screw it, I'm going to make it work. And now I've been in this building for about 5 years. And now I could use more space already again. So it's just, the nature of the beast of building a brand and a business.
Yeah,
So
but what a wonderful problem to have.
totally.
You ran out of space because you were so busy and so active.
Exactly.
There is a picture that I have that I borrowed from your online, and I was going to talk about it a little bit later. This is your spin class, if I'm not mistaken, in action.
That's right.
There's a part that I want to talk about this particular picture for a very specific reason. I'll do that in a few minutes. But you mention that you are now incorporating almost everything from A to Z, all the nuts and bolts of health nutrition, keeping somebody active and healthy and for all the right reasons. Now, I bring that up for the main reason to say you have to help people start new habits. I don't want to necessarily say that you go through any kind of procedure to break old habits, unless you do. And if you do, I want to
Oh, we
talk about
do.
that. Do you?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so
It
go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say a little bit more of back information about me. Before I opened this business, I was actually a correctional officer for 6 years. So I have a bachelor's degree in justice, which the most of that education is on behavior change, right? As a correctional officer, you're trying to take a non-law abiding citizen and make them a law abiding citizen, right? So a lot of that actually helps me in my personal training and in this business because it really is teaching people to change their behavior. So it really much is deep rooted. It's not just, hey, here's a spin class, get moving. I take my job as the mentor and the owner here and the personal trainer of like, well, why aren't you moving right now? Let's figure that out and
Hmm.
then figure out how we can get you moving. Or why are you eating this way? Let's figure out how we can change your behaviors to have you eating a different way. So it very much is habit breaking and new habit building that is the basis of everything that I do here.
Is there a particular way or set of ways that you help people break old habits or old patterns?
So this is actually a piece of the puzzle that I have really, really fallen in love with. I only started personal training. We've been open 6.5. So probably just the last 3.5 years or so did I really take on the personal training side.
Hmm.
And that piece of the puzzle is really what I've fallen in love with, is trying to figure out the person and try to figure out, what makes them tick and how I can get them to tick differently for them. I don't want people to think differently because I'm telling them. I want them to think differently because they want to make change. And that finding that puzzle and how to piece it together of here's where you are now, here's where you want to be.
Hmm.
Now, in between there, how can I help you get there? And it is the craziest journey that I just love to be a part of with my clients. And it's a puzzle, and it's just adapting and pivoting. Every session I learn something a little bit new with them, and I take who they are as a person to get them to their next goal.
See, and that's the reason that I ask is a lot of people think bad habits or old patterns are permanent, and they are not. But it takes a certain mentality, A, to want to change. Because if the desire is, I don't want to change, I want to remain sedentary, I there's not a lot that you're going to do motivationally to get that person to be non-sedentary. It's just
That's
not going
right.
to happen. But people need to hear from somebody other than me or somebody else. They need to hear it from people like you to say, hey, your old habits can die. And I can help you do that. How long of a process would you say it is? And I know that it is so random and so different for every person that you work with. But in a nutshell, how long does it take to begin to form a new habit? And then how long does it take to maintain it or to where it becomes habitual?
So there is actually a lot of studies out there and scientific studies and analytical studies and all this that, some people will say, well, it takes 21 days. Well, some people say it takes 28 days. Some people will say it takes 90. And I'm a firm believer that there is no specific timeline on it. It really depends on the timeline on how hard you want to execute in within that journey. So I think a lot of people, especially in the fitness industry, I mean, there's this people try to sell you that you can have go from A to B, from a sedentary, maybe you've got some extra weight on you over here and you could go to the shredded six pack in 30 days. Well, that's just not going to happen. Or if
Hmm.
it can happen, you're going to be so restricted on yourself that you're going to hate your life and you're not going to stick with it. So, a little bit more about me and kind of my journey is I've been on this journey for about a decade. I found fitness way back in, about a decade ago when I started in corrections and I started teaching spin, and it's been about a decade of self recognition and self responsibility and self growth all through along the way to get me to where I am today. So a lot of people see who I am today and they go, well, you're just this awesome, confident, fit freak. But it took me a lot of freaking work to get here. And so it depends on the person, how much they want to dedicate towards it, what their goals are, and everything. I am a firm believer in start small and make your first few small steps in your first year very achievable. So like simply eating more vegetables at every meal.
Hmm.
Get that. And once that's habitual, Then let's look at tracking your protein. Once that's habitual, let's look at, adding an extra workout in every week. So it just really depends on the person and how much effort they want to dedicate to their ultimate goal. And everybody talks about end goals. And that's great to have a goal, but fitness and wellness to me is a spectrum across a lifetime. So it's just achieving a goal and setting a new one, and achieving a goal and setting a new one, rather than a lot of the fitness industry will tell you, well, 30 days or 60 days or 6 weeks or hard 75. But then what's after that? And I'm the believer of instilling the habits that will take you through the lifetime rather than just a short blanket, chunk of your life.
And that's one thing that I noticed just in watching your videos is that you are after something much more tangible than an immediate result.
That's right.
And again, that blew my mind a little bit because, as you mentioned, I even have friends that are very much into fitness or bodybuilding or things of that nature, and it seems they always allude to an immediate result, or packing on inches or pounds of muscle, or and I'm like you. I've watched people, an old science teacher from high school, who went into bodybuilding and did it on a more professional level and went into competitions. And I saw that, oh, I've been out of school a long time, but I saw him about a decade ago, and he still looked the same. Okay, now we're talking, go back to mid 1980s when he was doing this in competition. And now fast forward to the 2014, 2015, and I saw Mr. Doubt, and he was the same. Still not as so huge or defined, but still, holy shit, this guy's in terrific shape, you know? But then I run across these people that are like, well, you do this and then this and then this. And those are the people that I see fall apart. You see them 3 years later and they look worse than I do. So
And
I'm,
I played that game for a lot of years. In high school, I played sports all my life and I quit playing sports. And then I packed on a ton of weight. So I was a little over 200 pounds and no muscle. Like it was just kind of fat back in that day. And I hated myself and I was bullied really bad. And so I went through that kind of self-destruction phase of like binging and not eating in front of people and feeling really shitty about myself and doing the detox teas and wearing the waist trainers and taking the fat melting pills. And I've been there and I've done that, and I know for a fact that that shit doesn't work
mhm.
because I was there once. And I think that also helps me. Not that I think that everyone in the fitness industry should have that experience, but I do think that it does help me relate to my clients a hell of a lot more, that I can say, I know exactly how you feel right now. I know exactly what you're thinking right now. I've been in that, that rut of just like feeling like shit and not wanting to get up and not wanting to do it, and, trying to pick out an outfit that doesn't fit right. And, I was the master at hiding everything. You sit on a couch and you grab the pillow and you put it on your stomach, right? That's fat girl shit, man, that you get really good at when you don't feel comfortable in your own skin. And I've been there, and
Hmm.
now I'm on the other side of that. And I think that really does give me a bit of an upper hand when dealing with clients, because I can say I get it. And people really grab hold of that, because when all of a sudden you can empathize and build that rapport with your people, that's where the magic really happens, in my opinion.
Do you run across a lot of people that are beginning in your studio that have been on this roller coaster of fad diets and poor nutrition plans and Jenny Craig or a number of others? And they've gone up and down and up and down and up and down. And finally, they come to you and you're able to show them a little bit of, look, these things over there, they don't work. Does that constitute a little bit of the new clients that you have? Or have you seen that increase over the last 2, 3, 5 years?
No, I'd say that's the pretty standard story across the board. Most people who are coming in here, have tried a little bit of everything. When we were the new kid on the block here in Prince Albert, everyone was flocking in because we were the new great thing and the new shiny thing that, we had a new way of doing things and a new spin and that. And we see people come and go constantly in the business.
Mm-hmm.
People come in for a few months and they shred really hard and then they go back, or they get sick, let's say, or Christmas hits. And then they don't come for a couple weeks and they've slipped right back into their sedentary routine. And so is how I operate here is, especially with my team, I have a team of 12 instructors behind me who help me run the show here. So my biggest thing is we are all inclusive all the time. We don't care who you are, where you came from, if you're fit, if you're overweight, if you're tall, short, black, pink, purple, she, he, they, them. Like we don't give a shit who you are and where you came from or what your goals are. You're welcome here and we want you to come here. And I always say, if you're moving, you're doing it right. So if you come to one of our spin classes and you just sit there and just pedal at your own pace for the 45-minute class, and you don't do any of the choreo and you don't do anything else besides sit there and pedal, we don't give a shit. You're up and you're moving, and that's what it's all about. So that's where I think, again, that separates us a little bit differently, is we don't have the expectation of our clients to have to do everything right off the hop. In all of our classes here, we have everything from power lifters and triathletes to people who have never stepped foot in a gym in their life, who would be considered, on the obese spectrum. And we have everything in between. I train even, semi-pro hockey teams in here. I also have the Special Olympics floor hockey team that comes in and does our stuff, and we adapt and we pivot for any sort of group or style that we have here. And we just make it very clear that there is always a regression and a progression for everything that we do. So everyone is welcome all the time, and we shred together as one strong community.
Wow. Here's an odd one. Have you had anybody, and this is more of a very specific kind of thing, have you had anybody come in that has been recently diagnosed as a type 2 diabetic and they want to change their eating habits and their health in order to not or no longer be a type 2 diabetic? Have you run
Yep,
into that?
I have a client right now doing that.
Really?
Yep. Yeah, she came in as actually with a school group, and after a couple sessions kind of learned her story, and she is right on that brink of coming into the type 2 side of things. And so her doctor said, you got to change something. And she's young, she's in her 20s. And she has just fallen in love with coming here once a week and working with me. And it's very cool that, that news from the doctor really kicked her in the ass to make change. And I am grateful that I get to be the one to kind of help and assist her along that journey. So yeah.
And I ask that for a plethora of reasons, but I started in 4 years ago. It was 365 pounds, just massive. And then went in the hospital, and okay, you're a type 2 diabetic. Okay. And I started to change, but I didn't really follow the program and a bunch of other things. And it's finally progressed. Okay, now I'm on insulin, I'm type 1. But now my body is reacting better. I'm down around 285, thereabout, working my way down. But it's just, I know that there are people that are a type 2 diabetic that can reverse that, for lack of words. I'm not a medical expert, folks, by any means. But they can get rid of the stigma and the association of being a type 2 diabetic if they change their life. And that's a key thing, is if.
That's right. And I like that you use the word stigma there, because that's a big piece of what I'm trying to do here at the studio is change the narrative of what fitness looks like. And there is this stigma that, larger people shouldn't be in the gym, or if you have stretch marks you shouldn't wear a crop top, or if you've got, again, you're more on the obese side, and you just need to walk right now. Like, it's ironic to me that people out there will bully these people to get them to lose weight, but then they go to the gym and they're bullied for being in the gym. And it's like, well, that's fucking backwards. Like, what are you talking about? So the stigma that is fitness, that unfortunately, in any industry, you're going to have the dickheads out there who are going to, make it difficult for everyone. And that's not just fitness. Like I said, it's in every industry. But I've made it my mission to change that narrative, that not everybody who comes to the gym, or gets, starts working out or exercising, isn't trying to have a six pack. They're not trying to compete in bodybuilding. They're not trying to do all these things. And kudos to those who do, by the way. Like, bodybuilding is a whole world of its own, and I applaud people who can do that. That's not for me, and I've got buddies who do it, good for them. But there's this whole other general population that I think needs to be educated more on the benefits of fitness, like you said, to combat the type 2 diabetes, to combat cardiovascular disease, to balance our hormones, to relieve our stress, to, mental health. Mental health is a huge one. Of course, with my corrections background, mental health is huge for me. That, one of my instructors says, come to the studio for your mental health and stay for the physical benefits. Walk through the door because we support you, and stay because we can help you get stronger and more fit along the way. So changing that narrative and, trying to combat the stigma that some people in the fitness industry have put out there is really my mission, and vision for this studio. And it is working. We're changing lives on a daily basis. And it's really, really cool to see, exactly like you said, those type 2 diabetics who are like, I'm sick of my own bullshit. Let's do better. And, we're there with open arms to bring them in and help them wherever we can. So, yeah.
Somewhere in your material or in one of your videos, if I'm not mistaken, you had said that exercise in a nutshell can help calm people down and bring more of a stability to their emotional side of life. And part of it's because of you're working out, you get endorphins and a bunch of other things. But how much do you use that in what you do?
Oh, tons. And again, I'm living proof of it, because I was the self-destructive girl back in the day who hated herself and, did drugs and drank and partied. I became the party girl, and now my passion is fitness. And so what I've learned about the gym, especially over the last few years, since I really took strength training, seriously, and mobility and stability training and all that, is when you come into the gym and you crush a really tough, challenging workout, that it proves to you that you can do hard things. And so if you can crush something that you didn't think you could do, if you pick up a 20-pound dumbbell and do 10 bicep curls and you didn't think you could do that, and you do it, well, all of a sudden when you walk out the door and you're at work the next day and a challenge comes at you, or that coworker you hate pisses you off, or your boss is ripping you a new asshole or whatever, you knew that you could handle the challenge in the gym, which shows you that you can handle challenges in real life. And I really think that does stabilize things across the board, just from a mindset and mentality and mental health standpoint, as well as, like you said, you get that endorphin push, you're surrounded by community, you get the support and everything. So I really wish more people would start to understand the concept that everything we do in the gym directly affects everything outside of the gym. Because I mean, your brain is a muscle too, right? So you want to work that in and out of the gym. And it's just, I can't preach it enough that there's just so much benefit to doing what we do here, for non-scale victories, for lack of better description on that. So
Sure.
absolutely. And I mean, nothing's better. You have a shitty day at work, you come in and you grab a 15-pound slam ball and you slam it against the ground 15 times. Well, I mean, there's no better stress relief than that, right? So, and people who are in high stress jobs, in the city that I'm in, it's a jail town. We got cops, corrections, nurses, police, RCMP. That's a big bulk of the city. Well, PTSD is a very real thing, and so I always encourage all our first responders here get discounts here because I want them to come in to work on their mental health so they're not losing their minds on the job.
You touched on something, and it goes back to this picture of your spin class. And the reason that I wanted to use this, you touched on it, and you said you need to surround yourself with community. And I try to get people to understand as you are changing things in your life, as you are making new inroads to different things, you will at times have to shed some of the old people you used to hang around with. A, because they're not good for you. But what you can't really explain to people, I haven't found a good way yet, the mentality of those people will infect your new mindset. And it's the one thing that I wanted to ask you, how do you help people understand to change, to bring a, a different new community of surrounding people, not only in your studio, but in their personal life? How do you help them navigate that?
So we talk a lot about that, in the shop here, in our classes. I talk a lot about it on social media, and that's again where we just hear us and me and my team at the studio really implant that we've got our clients' backs. So it is a very difficult decision to make to start changing your life. And again, I've been through that process and I've lost people along the way. And my biggest thing is I firmly believe as human beings, we're supposed to change along our lifetime. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, I just think you think of something even like your political beliefs. Well, throughout your age spectrum, or depending on what career you're in or what path you're on, your political ideologies should change along the way. And I think everything about us should change along the way. And so I've heard it a lot. Well, you've changed. Well, yeah, we're supposed to, you know what I mean? And so I feel like people who really truly love you and who are your people, for again, lack of better description there, if they're truly your people, they will support you along all the change along the way.
Hmm.
And anybody who doesn't support you, you don't have to wish bad on them. You don't have to force them, or even try to convince them that you're going down a different path. It's like I still want you to eat. I just don't want you to eat at my table.
Hmm.
So I think just trying to consistently encourage our people that there is those adaptations along the way, and you will lose people, but you'll gain more people, because I firmly believe that as you go down this journey of life and you pivot and adapt, for every person you kind of lose along the way, the universe is going to reward you with somebody new, either a new opportunity or a new person or a new chance to prove to the universe that you really do want this change, right? Like if you're asking the world for patience, it's not just going to give you patience. It's going to test your patience to see if you really want to earn that patience, right?
Yep.
And so this is stuff that we talk about all the time at the shop. And I've heard stories of people, we've had clients who say, the studio saved my life. The studio inspired me to leave my job that was ruining my mental health. The studio, I've had multiple women leave abusive relationships because of what we've encouraged them to do at the studio. I have personally moved 3 of them out of their abuser's house. Personally,
Wow.
pulling up with the truck, walking in and pulling all their shit out. So it is just, I think, just being the people and this space, this building. It's so hard to describe. It's got to be felt in this building, but like magic happens here, and it can't be explained. It's just got to be felt. And the client stories that have come out of the success of what we've been able to instill and encourage and support within this community just speaks for itself.
I can't even imagine having to help somebody literally move out of an abusive situation or home. That's got to be. My family. There's different portions of my family in law enforcement. My dad, uncles, but to be in close proximity to someone that is in that situation and you're helping them move, and you are trying to be the buffer or the shield between the person you're looking after and the person that is not so nice. That's a fine line between do this, don't do this. This guy's a jackass and I'm going to swing versus not. You know, that's incredible.
It is incredible. And you know, a client who has become a good friend of mine now, she was one of the first, and it literally, like, I helped her every step of the way. And she was in this relationship for 10 years.
Wow.
And ultimately is what helped her is just, I said, I'm there for you, man. Like, if you're gonna stay, I understand why you stay. And again, there's my corrections background that helps me empathize with the situation, right? And I said, and the day that you're ready to leave, I'll be there. And one thing led to another, and a couple years later, you know, being surrounded by the studio and being surrounded by the community, and just the fact that she had our unconditional support is really what got her out. And so I showed up with a crew and a moving truck, and she told her man, I'm leaving, um, see you later, sort of thing. And we rolled in 10 minutes later and walked in and took all of her stuff out of the house and moved her into her new house, which her, you know, her parents helped her co-sign, and she's just thriving and living her best life. And like, how fucking cool is
Fantastic.
that I get to say that the studio got her there? Like, that's fucking cool, man. Who would have thought that opening up this little fitness spin studio was going to be impacting lives like that? Like, it's again, like, my heart's just like my chest is just getting warm talking about it, because I just never thought that this would be what it would become. And it just did. And it's just the gratitude that I have. And I just feel so honored that I get to be a part of these people's stories. Like, it's just very fucking cool. It's just very cool. Yeah.
No, I get it. In the things that I do, I definitely get it. You touch on something else, which brings me back to one other photograph that you had, and you said gratitude. And your photograph, for the people that are listening on a podcast here later on, her quote is, "What are you grateful for from 2024, and what are you excited for in 2025?" I need to know from your own mental workspace what prompted you to do this image and to say that.
So gratitude is definitely something that only in the last handful of months I've been really trying to practice. Like, I always know gratitude wins every time. That's just the way it is. Like, you could
Hmm.
be having the worst fucking day ever, but I promise you, every single person out there could find one little blip in that day that they would be grateful for. And so, you know, going through everything that we did with the studio, you know, COVID wise and everything, and then coming out of that and inflation, and, you know, trying to battle all these things of me being a new business owner, it's very easy for me, especially, to get caught up in the hustle. of just go, 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 go. And I got to build and I got to expand and I got to do this and I got to do that. And somebody who holds themselves to a very high standard in the hustle of pursuing greatness. I recognized that it was time for me to practice gratitude. And so I have a handful of hippie friends who surround me who practice this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I took some inspiration from them. And so it was just kind of the end of the year to look back at 2024 and take that pause and go, okay, what am I grateful for? Well, holy shit, you could ramble off so many different things that you're grateful for. And I just think more people need to practice that, including myself. I need to do it more often. And this was something I actually asked my whole team to share. So there was 12 of or 13 of us who all kind of shared what we were grateful for and shared what we're excited for. Again, to just inspire the community to say, hey, you know, the good shit happened in 2024 in a world that seems like, you know, I'm a millennial, I'm 36, and the amount of world things that have happened in my short lifetime is crazy. And when we get bombarded with the news and the shit and you know, social media constantly telling us that we're not good enough and we're behind and you got to do better, and you know, the World War III is coming, and politics and religion and all this shit that just constantly, you know, raises our cortisol levels. Well, let's take a pause and go, hey, you know what, the world's fucked, but hey, I'm really grateful that I have my health. I'm really grateful that I have a loving husband. I'm really grateful that I have a roof over my head. And those things that we really take for granted on a day-to-day basis, I think just need to be paused and go, you know what, life is pretty good, all in all, you know? So there's a really long, drawn-out answer for a very simple question.
No, no. It leads directly into my thought of what I want to ask. I'm going to bet, I would wager, that when you started gratitude, that it was more vocabulary, that it was more, I've got these words, yes, I'm grateful for. And that gets you only so far down the road until, and I would almost again wager to the fact that you will know damn near the right day and time that you somehow, for an unknown reason, added the emotional part that went with it. And when you did, that's when everything changed. Would that be an
100%,
affair?
100%.
It's something that I see with so many people, and I work with so many different people around the globe. Um, when they're working on gratitude, they have a mantra. They've got these pretty words, and it sounds great, and they repeat it, and then 3 months later they get pissed because nothing is changing. And I'm like, do you know? Do you realize what the hell you're doing, or what you're not doing? And most
That's right.
people, it doesn't click. But something told me that you would understand. Yeah, for a little while, it was just words. I need to be grateful for. And your mind would think about it. But again, once you put that emotional, hey, I'm honestly really grateful for, and you feel it, it changes.
Yes.
It changes everything.
Totally. And you know what? I'm glad you bring this up because I just said so within our spin classes, um, in a classic 45-minute class anyway, it's about 12 songs that will end up spinning to. And one of those tracks we call a reset track. And so that reset track is kind of, I describe it kind of like a halftime or a timeout or an intermission, you know, what depending on what sport you relate to.
Hmm.
And it's just our opportunity to have a short active recovery, but it's on my team and my instructors to get vulnerable and talk about something as such. And so, you know, depending on what's going on in their lives, it's our chance to say, hey guys, you know what? Sometimes life fucking sucks, but hey, here's what I'm grateful for. Or, hey, you know what, guys, today I'm having a rockin' day. Here's why I'm having a rockin' day. I hope you have a rockin' day too. Just our chance to be super inspirational to our people. And last week, I just did a reset about, you can save all the memes and you can save all the inspirational quotes and you can plaster them all over your walls all you want. But until you put action behind all these thoughts, nothing's going to change. And so I love that you said, putting an emotion behind it, putting an action behind it. And that's ultimately, where you got to get. And again, back to, for a more or a less hippie way of looking at it to, the more analytical side is, in the cycle of change, you've got the first one is pre-contemplative, the first stage, and the next one is contemplative. And it's getting those people from that pre-contemplative of like, oh, I don't need to change, but yeah, that's a cool quote, into that contemplative of thinking about the gratitude, right? And then into the next stage where it's time to change, it's time to put it to work. And so no matter how you look at it, whether it's universal or, a religion based way of looking at it or a spiritual way or an analytical way, at the end of the day, it's all the same. That you can sit there and think, but until you put action behind your thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
nothing's going to fucking change. So I love that.
I read a quote somewhere. It said atheists may call it something, and Christians may call it prayer, and somebody else, a spiritualist, might call it their mantras, or it doesn't matter what they're calling it, it's all the same thing. It's about you coming across as an individual, whether you want to say physical and spiritual or metaphysical, it doesn't matter. Until you reach that point, and I've noticed that somewhere on some of the things you say all in. Until somebody reaches the point that they are all in, very little is going to happen.
That's right.
And again, going back to gratitude, if you are not all in and believing and having that emotional attachment to your gratitude, it's just a bunch of words in hot air.
100%. And that's where another little piece too, that, a lot of people say, fake it till you make it. And I don't like that phrase, because to me, faking it, you're not going all in. And even if you fake it and make it, to me, you've already put that label on yourself that you faked it. So that's not really you.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I prefer to say is practice until you are. So find those little moments of practicing gratitude, and maybe it will just be thoughts right now. But if you continue to do that and continue to adapt and morph and then continue into the next step of putting action, then all of a sudden, like you said, all of a sudden all these opportunities start opening up, and you start to get rewarded, and you get all these things that you can say yes to practice until you are, rather than fake it till you make it. Because I just think you have to know who you are wholeheartedly from the inside out. And I personally think the majority of the human population of 8 billion people on this world do not know who they are.
No.
And that's why, in my opinion, there is so much hate and deflection out there that you don't even know who the fuck you are. So why are you trying to tell me who I should be? And so that's a huge thing, is that self-responsibility of, don't worry about what other people are telling you to do or say or act. You got to do all in from inside out with you. So I love that you say all in, because 100% agree with that.
Yep. And like I said, it's one thing that I've noticed on different things that you have done, whether it's social media, print ads, or whatever, is you have used that term all in. And it is everything that I do in the metaphysical world, everything that you're doing in fitness and in health. If you're not in it, you're wasting your time.
That's right.
You're, and I hate to put it this way, but look, folks, if you are trying to accomplish something and you're only giving it lip service, you're not going to see tangible results, and you're going to become more frustrated and upset after the fact.
That's right.
That shit doesn't work. Well, no, it didn't work because you weren't actually trying.
100%.
So it's one of those, it's a frustration point for me because you can't, I personally don't tell people, look, you got to pay attention, you got to do this, you got to do that. No, people need to have a desire to change.
Yeah,
Without that
100%.
desire, it's just okay. We can go through the motions. We're both going to be wasting our time. That's fine. Maybe it might click, but chances are it won't.
Yeah.
And it is. It's frustrating sometimes because you can see the potential. You can see this change happening, and then they stop, and you're like, oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would be one thing if you could tell people? What would be one thing that they could take away from things that you're thinking or things that you're doing? What would you say to them to maybe influence them, helping them change today?
Ooh, that's a that's a loaded question.
Hmm.
I would say the biggest thing is choose very wisely on which fucks you give in your life. I think we give too many fucks to everyone else, and what everyone else thinks and what everyone else thinks we should be doing. And I think giving more fucks into ourselves, which fucks to give. I actually ran a seminar on this, which was really great.
Did you?
Um, I did, yeah, back in a few handful of years ago here at the shop. So, and it was called "Which Fucks to Give." So, I think people need to give more fucks into themselves, into their health, into their wellness. Of course, fitness is a huge part of my life, and like I said, everything spills over from there. We only get one life, and I posted a video up today is that just this morning, right before this interview here, that at the end of the day, none of us are getting off of this planet alive. Death is the only absolute inevitable guarantee that is our life.
Yep.
We are all going to die. None of us are getting off this rock flying through space, right? And so a big thing that I try to, practice or embrace is on your deathbed, you want to have remembers, not regrets. And so when you're laying on your deathbed, you want to go, hey, remember that time we did this? Hey, remember that time that I did this for myself? Remember that time that we went on that trip? And remember that time that, I did the thing? And you want to have that conversation instead of, I really regret that I cared too much of what people thought. I really regret that I didn't do what I wanted. I really regret that I didn't follow my dream. And so I think just really instilling the fact that you want remembers instead of regrets and stop giving a fuck about what other people think of you, I think are probably the biggest takeaways that I consistently preach around here, in the studio, in my personal life, in everything. So I guess a well-rounded, generalized comment that's what I feel. Wish more people would take a hold of.
And it is so true. But again, people don't realize it until they're in the middle of it and they go, oh, hey, that's what she meant.
That's right.
Yes,
That's right.
folks,
And
that's
nothing else
exactly.
matters. Everything else matters until your health is gone. All of a sudden you get sick. Nothing else matters, right? So
Yep.
I just being really proactive about your health, mind, body, and soul is that's never going to be a bad option. So definitely a top priority in my world.
In your online presence, you have an Instagram account that is, it's chock full of an awful lot of things. There is no doubt about it. Um, what is the address that it says the dot s2dio dot pa? Is that your Instagram address?
That is the business Instagram handle. Yes.
Okay. And then do you have a website if somebody wanted to go and look at your website?
Absolutely. And it's just www.thestudio.com.
Perfect. Because folks, I noticed that she has what's called a moments account. And I know for a fact that's what a lot of people will use. And if I'm not mistaken, that's what you use to put your studio online to where people can have an interactive session or follow along or work with you in that fashion, correct?
That's right. Yeah,
And they can find that on your website. Yes?
you got it.
Perfect. Desiree, I honestly so appreciate you taking time to do this morning. It
It was great. I loved it.
it's like I said, I watched that one video that Nick had posted and I went, oh my God, I need to talk to her.
I love that. I love that. Like I said, if you give me a platform, I'm going to talk my face off. So this was fabulous.
Well, folks, again, Desiree Hesson, she's online. You'll be able to find her. You'll be able to follow her. Go to her Instagram account and look. She's got videos on there that are just mind blowing because they are inspirational. They will get you through an afternoon. And if you want, you can go to her Moments account. You'll be able to follow her and do workouts with her and have a lot of different things. Your employees, the people that you work with, are they on Moments also?
No, it's just me. Well, our whole booking platform is on there, but I am the only one that runs. I have an on-demand program up there that's 30 days long, and it's just me that runs that.
Hmm.
So, yeah,
Okay. No, that's perfectly fine. I would encourage anybody to follow her, check her out, and look at what she's doing. I appreciate you being here. I really do. It's been a blast.
awesome, buddy. It has, and I love it. I love it, and we should do it again sometime, I think.
Oh, trust me, I'm sure that we're going to. Folks, until next time on Blending Metaphysical, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.